Welcome to Technically You, where we make complex tech simple, one packet at a time. Now, in part 1, we talked about what wavelength services are, how they work, why they're different from Ethernet, and when you actually need one. But today, we're getting into something way more important, not just buying a wave, but designing one that doesn't fail when you need it most. Let me ask you this. If your primary circuit went down right now, how confident are you that traffic would fail over instantly? Because here's the reality. A lot of companies think they have redundancy, but they don't. And that mistake, it gets very expensive, very fast. Let's start with the most important decision you'll make. Protected or unprotected wave, single optical path. If it fails, you wait for the carrier to fix it, and that could take hours, sometimes longer. Typical SLA. 0.9% uptime, 8+ hours downtime per year. Protected wave, 2 physically separate paths. Automatic failover if one fails. Typical SLA, 99.99% to 99.999% uptime. Failover measured in milliseconds. Reality check. Let me flip this back to you. What does 1 hour of downtime cost your business? If it's lost revenue, SLA penalties, customer impact, then paying for protection, it's usually worth it. How protection works. 2 main models, 1+1 protection, traffic sent on both paths simultaneously. Receiver picks the best signal. Failover, instant, often 10 minutes. 1.1 protection, primary path carries traffic, backup is idle or low priority traffic. Failover, by 50, 100 milliliters. Most enterprises go with 1+1 because it's faster and more predictable. Now, let's say you bought 2 waves. Here's the next question. Are you using both or just one? There's active-active where both circuits carry traffic. Think. Load balancing, full utilization. The benefits. You use 100% of your bandwidth. Faster failover, already in use. But here's the catch. Can one circuit handle all your traffic if the other fails? If not, you've just created a bottleneck during failure. There is also active-passive, where one circuit, active, and one circuit, standby. The benefits, simpler, predictable, and no routing asymmetry. Downside, you're paying for idle capacity, so what should you choose? High efficiency, active-active, or simplicity, compliance, active-passive. This is a question you must answer before deciding on a solution. All right, this is where things get real. What actually triggers failover? Option 1, optical layer protection. This is built into the carrier's network. Detects signal degradation instantly, switches paths automatically. Failover speed, sub 50 milliseconds. Your router doesn't even notice. Option 2, layer 3, failover, routing. This happens at your routers. Key technology, BFD, Bidirectional Forwarding Detection. Detects failure in 300-900 nanohours. Triggers routing convergence. Total failover. 1 second. Here's a pro tip. You can combine both. Optical protection, fastest. Routing failover, backup safety layer. That's defense in depth. Now let me ask you, would you ever want failover to not be automatic? Surprisingly, yes. Manual failover use cases, regulatory requirements, financial or healthcare environments, planned maintenance. Instead of auto-switching, a human approves the change, the trade-off. More control, slower response. Typical time, 15 to 30 minutes. Here's a scenario. Primary fails, traffic moves to backup. Primary comes back online. Now what? That's why there is revertive, where traffic automatically goes back to the primary circuit. The problem, you introduce a second disruption. There is also non-revertive. With non-revertive, traffic stays on the backup until it is manually switched. The benefit, stability, best practice, non-revertive plus scheduled manual reversion. There is also another bonus option, wait to restore, WTR. Waits 5 to 2 minutes before switching back. This option prevents flapping. So, as we continue, I must share with you that not all failovers are equal. There is pre-provisioned protection with a dedicated backup path. It's the fastest for restoration, milliseconds, but it is also the most expensive. Another option is dynamic restoration, GMPLS. This is where the network finds a new path automatically, and it only takes seconds to restore. The last option is best effort restoration, which requires a manual carrier intervention. This option can take minutes to hours, depending on your SLA with the provider. Translation: you get what you pay for. Now let's talk about where things go wrong. Mistake number 1. We have diverse paths, but don't. 2 circuits. Same conduit. 1 backhoe? Both circuits are gone. Solution: diverse route certification. Mistake number 2. Shared region sites paths look different, but share infrastructure. Still a single point of failure. Mistake number 3. Ignoring OSNR. If signal quality drops, you get errors, instability, and packet loss. Mistake number 4. Never testing failover. This one's huge. Companies spend $50K per month on circuits and never test failover. Reality: if you don't test it, it probably doesn't work. Let's talk about testing and validation. Before going live, simulate failure. Measure failover time. Check packet loss, validate application behavior. And don't stop there. Make sure you test quarterly. Let's bring it all together. What matters most? Protected versus unprotected determines survivability. Active-active versus passive determines efficiency. Optical versus routing, failover determines speed. Restoration type determines downtime. Testing determines whether any of this actually works. Now here's where we take this even further. Because even if your network is fast and resilient, is it secure? In Part 3, we're diving into optical layer encryption, MACsec versus IPsec versus OTN encryption, key management and compliance, and how to protect data at the physical fiber layer. Thank you for listening to Technically You, where tech is made simple, one packet at a time, and I'll see you in Part 3.